Hey guys, thanks for checking it out again. Going to do a video on playing the changes. It's a topic that comes up a lot. How do you play through chord progressions, or as the jazz guys say, play the changes. So the idea of this, just to give you the context, say I've got a song. In this case, I've written out a really simple chord progression, G, C, D. So we're in the key of G major. That's the 1 chord, that's the 4 chord, that's the 5 chord. If you're not sure of how that works out, basically in the key of G, you count up your scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So G would be number 1, that G chord. A, B, C is number 4, D is number 5. Excuse me. So a 1, 4, 5 progression in the key of G gives us a G major, a C major, and a D major. Now you could just use a G major scale to solo over that, and technically that would be absolutely right. The key is G, using G major scale, great. What you're playing at any given moment may or may not relate to the chord of the moment. So say I'm hanging on G major and I'm really playing lots of G, B, Ds here, and then the chord goes to the 4 chord, in this case the C chord, and I'm still playing lots of G, B, Ds. Well, there is a G. That's now the 5th. 1, 3, 5, the 5th. I'm playing a B, which is kind of a semitone below the C, so it's like a major 7, and the D is kind of like not really the 3rd, it's now the 2nd, or sometimes called the 9. So, you know, they may be really cool sounding intervals, but they may or may not be easy to hear, or it may not give the listener the sound that you're really comfortable or really aware of what the chords are doing. So I think if you can target at any given time notes in the chord that's happening underneath you, whether it's a piano or another guitar player or backing track, whatever, if you can hint at or land at on some of these chords and play around them as you're weaving in and out, it sounds really, really good. And it sounds like you're not just playing random notes that your fingers are choosing, you're choosing notes that you know are about to come up in the harmony underneath you. So that's playing the changes. Now, as I sort of hinted at, you can do other things. You can put other notes in. You don't have to just play those notes. You can bend in and out of them. You can add notes that are extensions. You can play chromatic notes that aren't actually in the key. And the way that you make those notes sound right is by landing on 1 or 2 of these chord tones on a strong beat, on a downbeat, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you've got all these other beats, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so you can get away with just about anything, so long as you know where the next chord is going to be, and you can hit some of those chord tones. So I really like to do this just with triads and with a simple progression to figure out what we're going to do. So for the first time, I'm actually just going to play, I've got a backing track, I'm just going to play root notes, right? I'm going to play G over each chord. I might even noodle around a little bit, right? Because it'd be boring if I just hit G for, 2 bars of G. I'm going to noodle around, but I'm going to try to target the root note of each chord as it comes up. Then I'll do the same thing. I'll try to start each little phrase on the 3rd of each chord, and then the 5th. Now that's a great exercise. It's not necessarily the most spontaneous way to play, but I think when we're trying to absorb these fundamentals, you just have to do them, in a pretty methodical way, and then you start to become more creative with it. But I just think of this as a game. It's a challenge. It's like playing a video game, trying to get to the next level. If you can find where these chord tones are, and hopefully you've looked at the previous video on triads, so that's really just mapping them out. That's a precursor to this. And then, how effectively can you move around the neck and find the next chord tone? It's really fun, and it sounds good. So here's the backing track, the Jazz Cats. Okay, starting on G, root notes. C, D, G, C, D. I'm going to end here on G. So, thanks guys. Thank you. So that was, improvise little phrases, but starting on the root note. So now I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to start on the third. So I'm trying to get on beat one, or the vicinity of beat one, or a strong beat with a chord tone. And then, didn't really mean to, but I was doing some chromatic notes in here, so notes that weren't even in the key, but you land on these chord tones on strong beats, and what you played has logic. It sounds right because you've ended on a right note. And again, this is, if we're talking about art, there's what's right and what's wrong. You can do whatever you want, but if we're talking about playing the changes, this is what that is. Okay, Jazz Cats. So now I'm doing thirds. I'm going to start on a B note over the G chord. I need an E over C. I need an F sharp. B over G. Here comes C. I need an F sharp for D. That was G, there's my F sharp. And here's a B over G. I need an E. I need F sharp. And then I need a B. Okay, so that was, thanks guys, that was thirds. You can guess the fifths will be exactly the same, right? You're going to just find the fifth of the chord, so over your G chord you're going to start your IDs on D. And you're thinking ahead to when C's coming up. You're keeping a track of where you are, and when C's about to happen, I need to be somewhere near G. Now you could of course just play anything and jump to a G. And so your melody, if you were to graph it out, it could be, oh, I need a G. Here's a G, and then I need an A for the next fifth. Oh, it's down here. That's fine. Another challenge, though, if you want to take this on, is to move from one ending of your phrase to the start of the next phrase, the next chord tone, as smoothly as possible with voice leading. So, say I'm noodling around. I've started on B here on my G chord, and I've noodled around. I've got my C chords coming up. I really want to make it a really nice flowing melody, like I hear the great musicians play. I'd really like to approach that G from, a scale degree above or below. So F sharp would be great, or A. And check it out. Now let me think about that. So you could do whatever you like to do here, and then, a semitone below sounds really nice. And sometimes, you find you've got this thing where, okay, I'm going to be really clever here. I'm going to go from G, and I'm approaching my G. It's coming. I'm on an E. I'm on an F sharp. Oh crap! I'm on a G, but it's the bar. It's a beat early. So what you do, if you're one note too early, you jump over to the scale tone above and then land on it. Da, da, da. And that you can sound really clever if you do that. People think you're a musical genius. So a lot of it is just trying to walk. It's like a walking bass line. You're trying to walk from chord to chord and land on a really cool note, and time it. And if you got there a fraction early, don't try to keep the rhythmic pattern going for now. We're not talking about being really out there rhythmically, just quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and help you to prepare, and then you can do all your weird phrasing later. But while you're figuring out how to work these harmonies, keep it nice and rhythmically, 1 and 2 and 3 and low. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I did something that I try not to do there. I ended on a D on the last beat of the chord and then stayed on D for the next one. There's no rules. I try not to do that. I try to be prepared, so I've done that approach from below or above. But if you do that, you know, you can slide or do some kind of articulation to make it sound not just like D, like. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mix up the chord tones, not always going from the fifth to the fifth to the fifth or whatever. I'm going to try to go from, you know, what sounds really nice, check this out, from a B to a C to a D. You know, you kind of find, admittedly it's tricky when you've got lots of time between chords. If it's a faster progression, you know, sometimes you can actually slow your playing down and it sounds a bit smoother. But let's just try a random approach to 1, 3s and 5s. I'll start on 3. On the 3rd again. Alright, I'm going to stop it there. So, hopefully that helps with thinking about, you know, just getting started at playing through changes. I do want to mention one more thing. I noticed there's a few times there where quite a lot of times where I was doing the chromatic thing, adding notes that weren't in part of the scale, but you know, through repetition and practice, I'm able to sometimes, hopefully most of the time, end on a good note of the next chord. But I think that's partly because it's kind of tricky to force yourself to just play triads. You know, you want to hear those other notes that give color. So I sort of anticipated that with this guy. So if you extend your possibilities of your triad by making them 7th chords, so instead of just a G major triad, G, B, D, I've added the next interval in that sequence of 1, 3, 5, 7. So in this case, this gives us G, B, D, F sharp. Now this is also the subject of another video which I need to do, harmonizing the major scale. So it's going to show you how to do this for any key. For now, just know that if you add an F sharp to your G triad, it's going to give you a G major 7. If I add the next one, C, E, G, B, the next sort of intervals jumping in 3s to a C chord, gives me a B. That's a C major 7. Really nice major 7, yeah? Same with this guy, major 7. It's only a semitone between this guy and the root note. So, G major 7, C major 7. Now this guy, check him out, the D major chord, D, F sharp, A, C. The interval that you get in the key gives us a C. That's a tone away from here, not a semitone. So that gives us our flat 7 or dominant 7. So the chords that I get when I've done this, some kind of G major 7, some kind of C major 7, however you like to play it, and a good old D7. So now, instead of just G, B, D over my 1 chord, I can do G, B, D, F sharp, and it's suddenly, you know, there's more to play with. Sometimes I like to do that. We need to look at 7th chord arpeggios, but I'm sure you can go out based on the last video and your own homework that you've done. G, B, D, F sharp. G, B, D, F sharp, G, B, C major 7, C, E, G, B, C, E, G. Can't help but add those chromatics, sorry. C, E, G, B, C, E, G. Do D7 chord, D, E sharp, A, C, D, E sharp, A. D, E sharp, A, C. It's got to get that C in there, Dean. So now I'm going to quickly give you one more run through, extending each one of those triads to now its 7th chord. So, Jazz Cats, do your thing. You're coming. I'm just starting on root notes for now. D, F sharp. Here's an F sharp. Gives you more options for ending on one chord tone, and in the next chord there's going to be a chord tone that's not far away at all. So here's G. I'm going to hang on this F sharp, and now it becomes G. And here's F sharp again, and G. C major 7, D major 7, or D7, dominant 7. I think it's going to end on a D chord for some reason. So hopefully that shows a little bit about playing or using those triads to target chord tones, because that's what triads are, right? They're chords, they're the 3-note chords, and you can use them to start identifying really good sounding notes in the next chord that's coming up. It really takes a bit of figuring out where notes are, because you've got to sort of think this stuff on the fly. So, you need to really make sure that you know the notes on your instrument. Otherwise, you're relying on muscle memory. I mean, muscle memory is good, but you're relying on patterns that your fingers are going to dictate that they know, we like to move this way, so we're going to do this. But if you do this other way slowly and methodically, we're going to override what the fingers want to do to what our mind wants to hear, our brain. So, what else do I need to tell you? Not much. Let me know if that helps, or if something part of it wasn't clear. And yeah, thanks for the suggestion, guys. Because I find the more I think about this, the better it is for me too. So I think we're all on this path of learning, and no one knows everything. And there's so much. There's an infinite amount of material out there that we could potentially cover, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by, all the things that people say you should know and should be able to do. And so I'd like to, first of all, try to eliminate the word should from our vocab, because, it creates feelings of guilt or unworthiness, or, I'm lazy or whatever. There's just so much stuff out there that, it'd be impossible to scratch the surface of every music topic and every style and technique just on guitar, let alone all the other instruments. So, just know that this stuff takes time to absorb, and yeah, I'm enjoying the process of having to explain it and make sure I understand it too. So, thanks, guys. Hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye.